Welcome to the TMYK show. I am Mike, your host, better known as Mo. Here's where you get the truth uncut. You know, there is still a lot of rumors circulating about the 2020 election. But what I really find very ironic and very interesting is that Donald J. Trump continually tells the public that the 2020 election was rigged. So what I'm taking this time to do is to go and look at some of the things that have been presented, some of the investigations, and some of the things that have been said concerning the 2020 elections. And I have a couple of questions about it. So, as always, if you enjoy the content that we bring, please like, subscribe, and share. Let's get into this. So yeah, as you see here, I want to read this right quick. This is something that was done in 2024 and they're investigating, and they spoke to this expert. So let's just read this. It says in 2024, an expert witness did testify in a federal court case that the Georgia's Dominion voting machine possessed technical vulnerabilities that could allow them to be connected to the internet, though they were designed to operate offline. Here are the details regarding the testimony and the expert findings. Point one, the expert, Dr. Alex Helderman, a computer science professor at the University of Michigan, was appointed to analyze the Georgia Dominion voting machines, specifically the ImageCast X ballot marking device, for a lawsuit. Point two, the testimony. 2024. Haldeman testified and demonstrated in the court that he could hack the machines using a pen to access the operating systems in seconds, potentially altering the votes. Point three, the internet capability findings. While the machines are meant to be used offline during voting, Haldeman testified that they contain hardware and software that could be connected to the internet, creating vulnerabilities if not properly secured. He argued that a sophisticated attacker could potentially exploit these vulnerabilities if they were hooked to the internet. Point four, content of findings. Haldeman testified that these hacks require specific high-level access and that he had not seen evidence that these vulnerabilities were exploited in past elections. That's still open. That's open for one's interpretation. We'd have to get into any detail about that because we do read and see here that they did have components inside of those machines that if they were hooked up, it could be exploited. Last but not least, defense and company response. The Dominion and Georgia officials have argued that the test occurred in a controlled setting, lab setting, not in a real-world election environment with physical security safeguards which prevent such attacks. I found this very interesting. Following the findings, a report by the Federal Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency confirmed that vulnerability existed but found no evidence they had been exploited. Okay. So we see right now, there's some things still to be questioned. Were they say they didn't find anything, but is that the case? we'll have to let things still unfold, because I still have some questions here as to why is this still being talked about in 2026? In 2026, Donald Trump in 2026 is still saying that this situation did exist. The election was rigged, and I believe that Donald Trump possibly still has evidence of that. But if and when they'll come out, I don't know. I just wanted to revisit it and do my own little research on this. So what we're going to do now, let me share something with you, but a lot of people don't know. You had senators who were going to object to the certification on January 6th. They were going to object to the certification. And let me tell you about the certification. Remember Maxine Waters objected to Donald Trump being certified his first term? Here's how it goes. Here's how the rules goes in Congress. The only person that can question the certifying of someone elected is the senators. When Maxine Waters, if you go back and look, when Maxine Waters raised her hand and said she objects to the certifying of Donald J. Trump in 2017, no senator came alongside of her. A House member by themselves cannot object to certification. That is the rule. Why it is that way, I have no clue, but that is the rule of Congress when it comes to certifying the President of the United States. So that's why she, by herself, could not object and it be halted. She would have had to have a senator to come alongside of her to object as well. So here it is. Check out how many senators we had that were going to object to the certification 2020.
Cruz of Texas now plans to object to Joe Biden's electoral college win. They're demanding an audit of the 2020 president. A group of Republican senators, including Ted Cruz of Texas, now plans to object to Joe Biden's electoral college win. They're demanding an audit of the 2020 presidential election results. CBS 2's Tom Hansen reports.
11 of President Trump's Senate Republican allies announced a last-ditch effort to challenge President-elect Joe Biden's election victory. In a joint statement Saturday, the senators, including Ted Cruz of Texas and Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee, acknowledged their efforts have almost no chance of changing the outcome. They wrote, "We are not naive. We fully expect most, if not all, Democrats and perhaps more than a few Republicans to vote otherwise. But support of election integrity should not be a partisan issue."
This audit will answer the questions as to what happened in some of the disputed states. Of course, Pennsylvania, there are so many questions around Pennsylvania.
Amy Klobuchar, the ranking Democrat on the Senate Rules Committee with jurisdiction over federal elections, said in a statement, Joe Biden will be inaugurated on January 20th, and no publicity stunt will change that. Earlier this week, Missouri Senator Josh Hawley sided with a group of House conservatives who want to prompt a debate and put the results up for vote.
This is the only opportunity that I have to be heard and to speak up on behalf of my constituents.
Congress convenes Wednesday to certify the electoral vote, normally a formality. But President Trump's unsubstantiated claims of fraud leave some Republicans under pressure to question the results. Vice President Mike Pence will preside over the counting of the votes. He and the Justice Department asked a Texas federal judge to throw out a long-shot lawsuit aimed at empowering him to overturn the results. Late Friday, the judge dismissed that case. Tom Hansen, CBS News.
So there. You had 11 senators who were going to ask for audits. What's wrong with audits? Why would that be a problem? But if you go back and you look at the tape of January the 6th, guess what you'll find? When two senators And they knew this in advance. They knew this in advance. The Democratic Party knew this well in advance, that you had 11 senators that were going to question the legitimacy of the election of certain states. If you go back and look, 2 of the senators objected the certification. And when those 2 senators objected, guess what happened? The riot started. The riot started. So you just do the math. You do the math. I'm just showing you some things here. So now let me show you why they may have questioned the certification of him on January the 6th. Donald Trump's continued to say that it was rigged, and I believe that this still needs to be looked into. Here you go. Check this out.
At about 8 o'clock in the morning, we're going to roll this back and show it to you. There you go. So now they're going to start pulling these ballots out from under this table. This table, the black one, was placed there by the lady with the blonde braids at about 8:22 a.m. in the morning. So she put that table there. So the same person who's staying behind now, the same person who cleared the place out under the pretense that we're going to stop counting, is the person who put the table there at 8:22 in the morning. Yeah, I saw 4 suitcases come out from underneath the table. Yeah, upper right hand, you see the gentleman in the red. So he just pulled one out. So what are these ballots doing there, separate from all the other ballots? And why are they only counting them whenever the place is cleared out with no witnesses? Is the question. So these...
No witnesses? Then we just read it's supposed to be secured. Those Dominion machines are in the midst of what's going on as well. Isn't it supposed to be witnesses? And from what I understand, those suitcases were not authorized packages or boxes that the ballot should have been held in. So what's really going on here?
Machines can process about 3,000 ballots an hour. You have multiple machines there, and they're there for 2 hours. So you do the math. How many ballots went through those machines in those 2 hours when there was no one there to supervise, to be present, consistent with your statutes and rules, to supervise the tabulation? We believe that could easily be, and probably is certainly, beyond the margin of victory in this race.
Donald Trump, let's get to the bottom of it. Let's find out. I'm looking for him to bring out what happened in the election. Was it a fair election? We're past it. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris did their time. They screwed this country up. Donald Trump is now trying to fix what they screwed up. And if it's proven that it was rigged, it's really good that we see it now. We were able to see what had happened, because if they hadn't rigged it, Donald Trump would have made it another term back to back, I believe we would be in much more danger today. Much more danger today. This country would be probably now spiraling out of control, period. And we as the citizens, as Donald Trump continually tell us every day, they don't want him, they want America and the citizens of America, because we've allowed them to be. We've been so gullible all of these years that we have been like sheep being led to slaughter. And that's what's truly happening. So let's look at, I want you to hear, I'm not going to listen to the whole thing. I may listen to a few minutes of it, but I want you to really check this out with Donald Trump and that infamous phone call.
Mr. President, everybody is on the line, and just so, this is Mark Meadows, the Chief of Staff, just so we all are aware, On the line is Secretary of State and two other individuals, Jordan and Mr. Germany. With him, you also have the attorneys that represent the president, Kurt and Alex, and Cleta Mitchell, who is not the attorney of record but has been involved, myself, and then the president. So, Mr. President, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you very much.
We'll listen to just a little bit of it. But you had all of these people on his side on this phone call. You had lawyers, you had representatives, you had the chief of staff, you had all of these people on a so-called illegal phone call. If it was an illegal phone call, please tell me why these other people weren't charged with anything. These people should have been charged. Donald Trump was impeached for this phone call, but nothing happened to none of these other witnesses that was on the phone. None. Let's hear what Donald Trump says.
Hello, Brad and Ryan and everybody. We appreciate the time and the call. So we've spent a lot of time on this, and if we could just go over some of the numbers, I think it's pretty clear that we won. We won very substantially, Georgia. You even see it by rally size, frankly. We'd be getting 25,000, 30,000 people a rally, and the competition would get less than 100 people, and it never made sense. But we have a number of things. We have at least anywhere from 250 to 300,000 ballots were dropped mysteriously into the rolls. Much of that had to do with Fulton County, which hasn't been checked. We think that if you check the signatures, a real check of the signatures going back in Fulton County, you'll find at least a couple of 100,000 of forged signatures of people with who have been forged, and we are quite sure that's going to happen. Another tremendous number. We're going to have an accurate number over the next 2 days with certified accountants. But an accurate number will be given, but it's in the 50s of thousands. And that's people that went to vote and they were told they can't vote because they've already been voted for. And it's a very sad thing. They walked out complaining, but the number is large. We'll have it for you, but it's much more than the number of 11,779. That's the current margin is only 11,779. Brad, I think you agree with that, right? That's something I think everyone, at least that's the number that everyone agrees on. But that's the difference in the votes. But we've had hundreds of thousands of ballots that we're able to actually. We'll get you a pretty accurate number. You don't need much of a number because the number that in theory I lost by the margin would be 11,779. But you also have substantial numbers of people, thousands and thousands, who went to the voting place on November 3rd, were told they couldn't vote. Were told they couldn't vote because a ballot had been put in on their name. And, that's very, 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 very sad. We had, I believe it's about 4,502 voters who voted, but who weren't on the voter registration list. So it's 4,502 who voted, but they were not on the voter registration roll, which they had to be. You had 18,325 vacant address voters. They had the address was vacant.
So there you go. You've seen that, you heard that. So he's just breaking it down to Brad Raffensperger about the evidence that they had. So if he had that evidence then, he should still have it now. I believe they're just waiting for the right time to spring it on the public. And they are keeping so many other things going. They're talking about the Epstein files. Why aren't you dealing with the other people that are in the Epstein files? Why aren't you dealing with Clinton? Why aren't you dealing with these other billionaires that are in the Epstein files? You're not dealing with none of them. You're only focused on Donald Trump, but I thought it was about the victims. You're only dealing with one person and you have nothing in there. Believe you me, people, if they had anything in them files that will implicate Donald J. Trump, they would have been in there. Donald Trump would not be the president today. Donald Trump would be in jail somewhere. But they keep wanting you to look other than where you need to be looking. And that's straight ahead and following and listening to Donald J. Trump. Check this out. I'll show you this here. We're going to move on to another clip. We're going to move on to another clip here. Because, I know somebody would be saying, why is he dealing with that? You know why I'm dealing with it? Because Democrats are still dealing with it. Democrats are still dealing with it. Why are they still dealing with it? It was 2020. Why did the riot happen right as these senators were objecting to the certification? These are legitimate questions that we as citizens should have about 2020. It's gone, it's past, but we still should know the truth about it. Do you think? So check this out. Check out Elizabeth Warren, and she's questioning Kevin Walsh, who has been tagged by Donald Trump to be over the Federal Reserve. And he's at his confirmation hearing. Check this out.
Independence and your courage. We'll start easy. Mr. Walsh, did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
We try to keep politics, if I'm confirmed, out of the Federal
I'm just
Reserve.
asking you a factual question. I need to know, I need to measure your independence and your courage.
Senator, I believe that this body certified that election many years ago.
That's not the question I'm asking. I'm asking, did Donald Trump lose in 2020?
Man, I'm suggesting you in 2020, the Fed made a huge inflation problem, and you certified the election.
So let me ask you another
out
question.
of monetary policy.
In our meeting, you said you would
politics.
be independent because you're, quote, a tough guy. Those were your words, tough guy. And you will be able to stand up to President Trump. So let's try it again. Name one aspect of President Trump's economic agenda with which you disagree.
Well, Senator.
These are the Looney Tunes that we have representing us as a country. What kind of questioning is that? He is independent of Donald Trump. He is over the Federal Reserve. As you see, the current guy, does he answer to Donald Trump? This guy will not also. He will answer to Donald Trump with integrity. Donald Trump has the right to make suggestions. He is the president of the United States. But does that mean that anybody over any of these other officers, forces, cabinet, they do not have to answer to Donald Trump or do what Donald Trump says if it is not within his rights to request it and their rights to follow through with it. Period. But again, why is she asking about 2020? And you see his clear answer. You all certified it. You all certified it. So why am I being asked that type of ridiculous question? I'm doing this because, like I say, Donald Trump continually says that the election was rigged. So I thought I'd just put some things on the table, maybe cause people to go back and look. Hey, food for thought, give people something to think about. Because I believe it's going to come out. Period. Because Donald Trump is no dummy. Please understand that. He knows what he is doing and saying. Period. So this last clip I'm going to show, this is the night of certification. And you know, I asked one question about that. They say this was one of the most horrific times in the history of our government. January the 6th, they had supposedly officers beaten to a pulp. They claimed that officers even died that day, which was a lie. But they claim all of these things. It was so horrific. Answer me this. What was the urgency to certify Joe Biden at 3:44 in the morning on January the 7th? What was the need? You couldn't wait until at least a day when all of America was possibly woke? You had to do it in the middle of the night? Something just don't add up to me. So let's go check out this one. This is the night of the certification. Now he's been certified now. Check this out. I just want you to look at this. Is that gold? What's that for? I don't know. I'd like to find out what was that about. Oh, look. Oh, he's chummy with Pelosi. Chummy now. He done certified the elections. They know now there's no going back. So now they're friends. They are just, she's just so thankful. Sure she is. Sure she is. She is so thankful. Wow. There it is. There it is. There you have seen snippets of what took place during the 2020 election. I hope you've heard some things to make you just look a little deeper. But the truth will come out. And there's nothing we can do about it. It's done. But should history record an event as normal and basically work as usual? It was done the way it should have been done. Should history record it that way if it wasn't? I don't think so. They talk all the time about being on the wrong side of history. You know, if it was not done correctly, we should want to know as America. We should want to know. Donald Trump keeps saying that the election of 2020 was rigged. And you still, as I showed you, why are the Democrats still talking about 2020? If it was legitimate, the last person should be talking about 2020 is the Democrats. The last person should be wondering who believes that the 2020 election was rigged. They should be doing business as usual. Hey, let's move on. And they only should be addressing that issue when it comes up. They should be not the one leading that issue, leading that in questioning, leading with that in questioning. That's what shouldn't be. So it's very suspicious, it's very suspect. But the thing about it, we want to be on the right side of history. We want to be on the right side of history. If it was fraudulent, it should be exposed and dealt with accordingly. So if you all got anything out of this tonight, please like, subscribe, and share. And until next time, as always, love you. Be kind one to another and love on each other. Peace.